we've learned before how to find the distance between 2 points on a number line. Now we're going to talk about how to find the distance between 2 points in the coordinate plane. Again, we've got 2 points in the coordinate plane that both have x and y values. So point U has x sub 1 and y sub 1. Point V is x sub 2 and y sub 2. The distance formula is actually based on the Pythagorean theorem, which you've probably already heard of and used, but we will study again later on. So keep that in mind as we go through this. Remember, the Pythagorean theorem is used in a right triangle and allows us to find side measures when we know information about two side measures. To use the distance formula, well, the distance formula itself is the square root of x sub 2 minus y sub 2 quantity squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 quantity squared. Now another way, an easier way to say that maybe is to say the difference of the x's squared plus the difference of the y's squared. So let's do an example. Let's say that point U's coordinates are -7, 5. And let's say that point V's coordinates are 4, -3. What is the distance between these 2 points? And we're going to round to the nearest tenth. So let's make sure we know our directions. Round to the nearest tenth. So what we're going to do is take our formula and substitute into it what we have for points U and V. It really does not matter which point you start with. Just because it says x sub 2 minus x sub 1 doesn't mean you actually have to go to the second x and subtract the first x. But if it's easier for you to do that, please do so. But I'm going to show you that it doesn't really matter. Let's say I chose to use -7 first. So what I'm doing is taking the difference in my x's, -7 minus 4, quantity squared, plus, now what does matter is that since I chose to use point U's x first in my formula, I must use point U's y first as well. So I put 5 minus point V's y, -3, quantity squared. Make sure you've got your square root there. Oops, forgot to close my parentheses. There we go. Now, again, make sure that you've got your points in order. So we go through now and do the algebra. The square root of -7 minus 4 is -11 squared, plus, when we do 5 minus -3, remember that's the same as adding +3. So 5 plus 3 is 8 squared. -11 squared, don't forget your square root again. -11 squared is 121. 8 squared is 64. So we're looking for the square root of 185. Now if you take a second and put this in your calculator, the square root of 185 comes out to about 13.6014. Check that in your calculator. But since it says round to the nearest tenth, I'll go ahead and write this down here. And I'm going to put the approximate symbol or about 13.6014. Doesn't really matter what else because it says round to the nearest tenth. So since our test digit here is 0, we keep it at 6. So we've got that the distance of this line segment is about 13.62.